刷题班 lesson 1. Now, this is the first lesson, so it's important for me to tell you something about listening. So there we go. Everyone should know about this. Number one, a lot of people say, do I need to use big words if I want to get a high score? Okay? What are big words? Big words means the words that are very difficult or very fancy. My answer is, of course not. When you want to explain something to people in Chinese, do you use big words, right, to explain to them? Of course you don't. You don't use big word in Chinese, then why do you have to use big word in English? The point of TOEFL speaking is not to show how fancy your vocabulary is to tell people that how smooth you can deliver the idea using the words you understand. So please know this. The second point is, do I need to use complicated sentences? A lot of people also say this, okay? The answer is, once again, no. TOEFL speaking, actually, they don't need you or they don't want you to use complicated sentences. If you can, congratulations. But if you don't, that's fine too, okay? Don't worry about this. The point is, can you deliver your ideas very fluently, as I said earlier? However, it doesn't mean you don't need to know anything or you don't need to know any grammar. Therefore, please pause your video right now. Okay, take some time to look at these 19 basic sentences. And if you don't know them very well, I suggest you to refer to your grammar book and to do some grammar research about this. So pause your video right now and to make sure you know what we are talking about. There we go. Okay, now let's go to the next question. Is it better if I use a template more like a model or example? Actually, in my class or in this video, you will practice a lot of way of saying something, but usually they are very similar. So the idea is to learn behind the template. So you know when this kind of question appear that you already know, I can say something. The idea is more important. However, if you repeat something again and again, of course, it will become a template in your head. So it's not so bad to use a template, okay? If the idea is similar, you learn this idea and everything will become quite easy, okay? Now, is it important to improve speaking? A lot of people have this wrong idea. They say speaking is very difficult. It's so difficult to improve, especially Taiwanese students. My advice to you is actually speaking is the easiest part to improve if you put enough practice. Why is it easiest part? Because remember, you don't need to use difficult words. In speaking, although sometimes there's reading and listening, those words won't be so difficult. In writing, in listening, the words could be difficult, but not in speaking. And your answer don't need to be very long either. You just need to reach the target time. So therefore, speaking is actually the easiest part. And don't forget, speaking is also the shortest part in TOEFL, only 17 minutes. 17 minutes, 25% of your grade. So what's the key to get a higher score? Of course, only one word actually, practice. The more you practice, the easier that for you. Actually, some TOEFL questions, speaking, listening, or reading, sometimes they will use the same question, exactly the same question, exactly the same reading again. So if the more you practice, if you get really lucky one day, because it happens to one of my students before, on the test you see exactly the same thing, then you will know what to say exactly. So what are some tips? Okay, what is something that you can study at home by yourself? Well, if you ask me, this is what I say. Number one, when you are speaking, practice, you always want to record your voice. Every time when you say something, record it. Use your cell phone to record it. And record it so you can listen to yourself and correct yourself one more time. By correcting yourself, you will improve, help yourself to improve too. So always record is very important. Number two, some people say, how do I practice English speaking at home? Record your diary. How about this? Now, basically, you can write your diary to practice your writing, but why not record your diary? Record about half of your diary, write the other half. So when you record, when you listen to yourself, for example, if I talk about what happened throughout my day, and because they already happened, if I say, oh, this morning I go to a supermarket, that's already wrong, because this morning you are supposed to say, I went to a supermarket. So by recording a diary, this will help you a lot. Next one is to think in English. How do you think in English? That's very important because a lot of people, they don't think in English. That's why their speaking will always be Chi-English. For example, they will say something like this: I very like pizza. We never say I very like pizza. We always say I like pizza very much. I like pizza a lot. That is because you are thinking in Chinese. So how do you think in English? Very easy. Think about things around you in your life. For example, a microphone, a t-shirt, computer or TV monitor, lights, okay, chair, okay, shoes. Can you explain them in English? If you cannot, try to go to online dictionary and try to see how they explain this. The point is not remember the dictionary. That's not what I say. You know how dictionary explains something, then you think about it. How do I say it in my own words? Use your simple word to say this. If you can use simple word to explain most things in your life, then you are thinking English already. So you should think about 3 to 5 words every day. Ask yourself, what are glasses? What is a coin? What is a water bottle? If you don't know, try to Google this online. Google the definition. And if you can know 3 to 5 words how to explain something in English, 1 year later, it will really help you to improve. Some people say 1 year is really long. But remember, if you want to prepare for your TOEFL, you should spend 1 to 2 years. That's the average time. Okay, average time. So get about 3 to 5 words every day and think about how you explain this in English. 1 year later, you know more than 2,000 words in English. That means you can already explain things in English. You are thinking in English already. Next one, and look at one thing and begin to tell a story. Now, this is very important. Why? Because the first part of TOEFL speaking is independent question. Independent question requires you to see a question and answer right away. If you're not used to look at something or see something or read something and respond, this would be a big trouble to you. Okay? So look at one thing, begin to tell a story. For example, I'm walking on the street right now. I see across the street there's an old gentleman. I can talk about what he's wearing. I can imagine where is he going, what is he doing, how old is he, how many people are there in the family. Try to see if you can come up with some sentences. Now, some of you will say, how do I know? I don't know him. That's not the point. The point is on the test. Sometimes you will talk about something that maybe you don't support or you don't even know. But the point is keep talking and try to create something. This will really help you to create your own answer for independent part. Now, every week in TOEFL classes or in this video or in some video, you will learn words. Make sure you make sentences with the words that you learn. Make a sentence allow you to understand the word. If you know the meaning, it doesn't really help because you still don't know how to use it. Please make sentences. That's the next point. Next one, Google English phonics teaching and practice and repeat after the video. Now, this is very important because right now, pronunciation is important. The TOEFL speaking right now is graded not only by people but also with computer. When computer, artificial intelligence, is listening to your speaking, they care about grammar, pronunciation. Therefore, if you Google phonics teaching or practice online, then basically you will find they teach children how to pronounce the English word. And this is very helpful because you can know the correct pronunciation. And next time, more importantly, when you hear some sound, you will know how to spell it. Because on the test, sometimes when you hear something, you don't know how to take notes because you don't know how to spell it. But by knowing this, by learning this, you will know what to say exactly. For example, if I say ow, ow, the sound. If you know phonics, you know ow is O-W or O-U. So if you know this, next time when you spell something, this will really help you. So for example, somebody said pow. Pow maybe it's P-O-W, P-O-U. Both possible. Next one, very important. Have two speaking speed. Now, why is this important? Because on TOEFL speaking, sometimes you have a lot of information, a lot of things you want to say. But sometimes you don't have enough. But the key point is you still need to talk. Continue to talk. If you talk very short, you will never receive a high score. It doesn't matter how beautiful, how correct your sentences are. So therefore, two speaking speed is important. This is something you can practice at home by yourself. Always have two speed. When you have more, what can you say? When you have less, what can you say? Of course, in this class, you will also hear I present my example in slower and faster tempo. Last one is also very important. Read a piece of English article online, a newspaper, or any article you're interested in, doesn't matter. Or listen to a talk. Okay, listen to a talk on the internet. Okay, write down the main points and retell the story. This basically is the idea of taking notes and see if you can say the same thing. That's very important in speaking. In TOEFL, we often need to hear something and tell something again. So these are the tips. You can take a look and can pause the video right now. Okay, now, independent question. That's what we are going to do in listening number one. Now, this is also called question one because there are 4 kinds of questions on TOEFL test. Independent question, usually they will ask you to choose from 2 or 3 options. You have 2 or 3 choices. Choose one. And then they will ask you whether you agree or disagree with the sentence. Or they will ask you if something is true or not, or if something is a good idea or not. Actually, these 3 kinds of questions are quite similar. And I will explain why later as we continue. Okay? So these are the basic 3 types of question in independent question. Question 1. Okay. In independent question, on the test, you only have 15 seconds to think. After they read you the question, only 15 seconds. 1-5. And then, if you want to do well, after you listen or when you are reading the question or when you listen to the question, you should write 3 to 4 keywords down. Write down the keywords that will help you to organize your answer. That's very important. Okay? If they talk about, do you think it's a good idea for students to live outside when they turn 18 years old? Then you should write down, live outside. Okay, grow up, independent, or financial problem, or money. Those are some words you have to think of really quickly. That's why the ability of look at one thing and to tell a story is very important. If you look at one thing, you can tell a story. That means you can think something in a very short time. So write down 3 or 4 keywords. Turn those 3 or 4 keywords into 2 reasons. Now, some people say, why 2 reasons? Why can I not just have 1 reason? Actually, 1 reason is fine. Most people cannot speak for 45 seconds by themselves. So if there's only 1 reason, 2 reasons would be better. And I'll also tell you why 2 reasons are better later. Now, some people say, is conclusion important? To me, conclusion is optional. If you know your speaking is too short, then put a conclusion. If it's long enough, don't worry about this. Because independent question, 45 seconds, they will cut you off. They won't hear you anyway. Okay? So, because you have to talk for 45 seconds, always speak for up to at least 42 seconds. At least 42 seconds. If it's under 40 seconds, it's considered too short. Let's go over this part. Remember, in independent question, actually in all the speaking, okay, try not to use the same word. What does that mean? If you talk about beautiful, don't use beautiful 2 or 3 times or 3 or more times in your speaking. Try other words. Excellent, marvelous, wonderful. Using the same words, tell people that your vocabulary is really limited or you don't know what you want to say. So that's why you repeat the same word. Okay? Next one. Personal examples are always the best. It's the easiest. For example, when I was young, blah, 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 blah. Personal example. They like example. If you can give personal example, it will help you to score better. Okay? Next one. use numbers even though you don't know for sure. What does that mean? To make your answers sound better, sound more convincing, I use a lot of numbers. For example, the question is, do you think it's a good idea to set up police station in every corner or every neighborhood? Do you think it's a good idea or not a good idea? And I say, I think it's a fantastic idea because the crime rate in my city is very high. Last week, I read a report and it says the crime rate of my city has increased 25% in the last 3 years. They don't know this. But when you bring a number in there, it sounds more convincing. It sounds better. And never look back. Keep talking. Some people, if they make a mistake or they say, they stop. They don't know what to do. But you still have another reason. You have a second point. Continue. Say it. Forget about it. Time is not waiting for you. If you fail and you can pick it up, that's actually okay. Okay? You don't need to have perfect sentences or perfect timing to get a high score. Some smaller, minor mistake can be allowed. So keep going. Keep going. That's very important. So now, are you ready for the first practice? Let's look at this. Let me read a question to you. Many universities now offer academic courses over the internet. However, some people still prefer learning in the traditional classroom. Which one do you think is better? Explain why. So obviously, for this kind of question, there are two choices. The first one is over the internet. Next thing is traditional classroom. Okay. So if you look at your handout right now, you can see when you have two choices, I recommend my student to use this kind of technique. Choose the one you like is better. Okay, for example, if you think online courses is better, then your two reasons should be number one, talk about the advantage of online courses, and then talk about the disadvantage of traditional classroom. That would become your two reasons. Okay? Once again, you don't need to have two reasons. However, two reasons will help you to keep up to 45 seconds of talking. 45 seconds, okay? So, right now, look at your paper. You can see advantage of A, which is, doesn't matter which one you choose. Disadvantage of B. So right now, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. You can pause this video right now, pause the video and time yourself. Give yourself 2 minutes. If you finish earlier, that's fine too. Write some keywords down. For example, internet, I think about convenience or maybe save time. Internet, you can learn anywhere or anytime. Which means traditional classroom, you cannot learn anywhere or anytime. See, that's another way you can use this. So let me give you 2 minutes. Think about what do you want to say. Write something down. 2 minutes. Pause the video right now. Let's go. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. When you have two choices, okay, two choices. First one, you should talk about which one you prefer. That's called the main idea. Always answer the question first. Then you have a transition sentence to tell people that your reasons are coming. I will tell you what's transitional sentence later. And then why do you choose it? The advantage, that's your first reason. And why the other one not as good as this one? That's the disadvantage. That's the second reason. Okay? Once again, as I said earlier, conclusion is optional. You don't always have to have a conclusion. How do we bring this together? You can also see this on your paper already, okay, on your handout. So your main idea is, I believe it's better for students to learn online or to learn through traditional classes. That is called main idea. Of course, you don't need to use I believe always. You can say personally or in my opinion. Doesn't matter. Your choice. Choose the one you feel most comfortable. Then transition is, I feel this way for two reasons. Or you can say there are two reasons. Or, and my reasons are. Whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Okay? Now, your first reason should be something like this. The advantage, for example, if you choose online, talk about the advantage of online. But I recommend you to give a short answer first. And then elaborate it. Say something more. For example, first, convenience. That's it. And then, for example, use this to explain your answer. It will make your answer sound much more organized. Okay? So for this part, you can say, to be more specific. For example, for instance, which one, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want. But if you use, for example, right here, for your next reason, after your short answer, don't use for example. Say for instance. Use different words. Remember? Okay. So when you want to introduce your second reason, you can say second or secondly. Firstly, it doesn't really matter. Or on the other hand, to bring out your other reason. Once again, a short answer and explain more. If you want to include a conclusion, you can say therefore or I think, okay? Or you can say, in summary, I believe. Right now, I'm going to give you some time to think about this. This is 45 seconds. You have to talk for 45 seconds. But I will give yourself about 60 seconds to see if you can prepare this. If you cannot finish in 60 seconds, give yourself 90 seconds. This is the first one. Take your time. Don't worry. Take your time. Write something down first, okay? And organize that this way. There we go.